Okay, and we're on. So, Dharmendra, welcome and thank you so much for doing this session with us. And, I just want to give people a little introduction for those of you that haven't met Dharmendra as yet. Oh, is my audio less? Okay, okay, let me.
Slightly louder, yeah.
All right, so hopefully this is loud. Okay, so I just want to give a quick background on Dharmendra. And I've known him since 2011, 10, 11, almost a decade now. And I found his strategies to be a little bit difficult to swallow sometimes, but they're very, very practical, the results are pretty good. And I have been practicing them for the last 10 years, and I've seen how effective these strategies are. And today, I've asked him to again come and talk and share some more examples about invisible selling. And so we will basically deep dive into a few. I've got a couple of questions for him, and then you guys at the end can put your questions in, and I'll take them and ask Dharmendra to put those questions. I actually have some data to share if Dharmendra is okay at some point, that by implementing just one of his many strategies that he talks about, just one of them, gave me a huge result, and I've got the data. That's, I think when people have data to show, then it really, really makes an impact. Okay. And so I tried to chase data, and I actually implement one of his strategies, got the data, which I'm going to happy to show at some point once Dharmendra talks about the strategies that he's going to talk about. It's on scarcity, but he'll first go deep dive into what it is, and then we will actually show you some data that showed how it works. So let me actually stop rambling and give it over to Dharmendra. In fact, I have a question I'd like him to start off with, which is many people who might have seen the title of the webinar maybe wanted to know what is invisible selling. Some people might have guessed it, but just to further clarify what is invisible selling, can you just talk a little bit about that? What is invisible selling?
Invisible selling is derived from plenty of disciplines. It's derived from behavioral economics, from the science of influence, science of persuasion, from science of marketing, the science of human behavior. And the reason I am not calling it behavioral economics or anything of that sort is because I would like to think of it as my own brand, where I'm doing things which are pretty different. One of the things I'm doing is I'm borrowing from any and every discipline that I think makes sense. So I don't need to confine myself to one discipline. If I say I'm focusing only on behavioral economics, then technically what is not behavioral economics, it would have to be left out. I don't want to do that. And one of the things that I am extremely focused on is producing a result. I cannot produce a result for people who are listening to us right now. The maximum I can do is make it simple and fun. As much fun and as simple as possible up to a point. It can't be simple and fun beyond a point because that's just the way things are. If it's so simple, then everybody would be a billionaire. There are plenty of experts on various subjects. There is, for example, Richard Thaler, whose book I'm holding right now. It's a fantastic book called Misbehaving, in the sense it has lots of good strategies mentioned in it. But the problem is very few people in the world read books. There are very few people in the world who buy books. And out of the people who buy books, there are very few people who read them. Out of the ones who read them, very few understand them. Out of the ones who understand them, there are very few of them who remember them. And out of those who remember what they read, there are very few of them who actually implement. And when books, and most books, are written in such a pathetic way, you feel that the author of the book is being paid He's being incentivized to ensure that nobody understands what his book is about. He's being paid to make people go to sleep when they read their books. So that's where I'm different. If you're going to, for example, buy and read this book, this is it's about 600 pages, and it's the price is in pencil. It's about $877. Research has shown that most Indians don't buy books which cost more than 300 rupees. So that itself is a big detriment right there. And look at the thickness of this book. And this is his preface. I'm just going to read the first 20 statements. Problem is, these guys speak about 10 to 20 different things. In 10 to 20 lines, they speak about 10 to 20 different things. Now, as a reader, you don't know how much attention you're supposed to pay on all those 10 to 20 different things, because you don't know which of them are really important for you to learn the subject and which of them are going to be spoken about in the future. If you know that this is important and they're going to speak about it in the future, then you're going to pay more attention to it. So that itself is such a huge, huge problem. And the solution is so simple. Every author should write a book which is a pure essence, where he's trying to use the minimum words and he's trying to explain the concepts. He's not trying to explain the history at the same time. So plenty of authors, I think, are not clear. What is the object of writing the book? What is the object of writing this guy's book is not clear at all. If he's trying to explain the concept, he's certainly not able to explain it very well. And he is trying to speak to everybody. He's trying to speak to somebody who's a researcher. He's trying to speak to somebody who's a businessman. He's trying to speak to somebody who's an academician. So that's another difference between this and invisible selling. Invisible selling is only focused towards businesses. You can use the strategies anywhere else, but I want to give you the maximum examples related to business, because everybody understands business related examples. Everybody has heard of big brands like McDonald's and Facebook and Google and all that. So I give examples from those companies. It's much easier to understand. And business examples are examples where success is measured by money. And money is a quantitative barometer of success. So it again makes people feel that, yes, this strategy really works. If somebody says, oh, I use this strategy and now I'm very happy, my life is much happier, or because of this, my child is able to learn much better, he's become a better student, all that is great. But then when I'm selling you a concept, that's not very powerful because it lacks quantitative metrics. So I'm very quickly going to read 20 lines, about 20 lines. And you can see he's going all over the place. And I'm sure plenty of people will not go. I'm absolutely sure out of every 100 people who bought this book called Misbehaving, less than 10% of them have read the entire book. I'm absolutely sure I'll bet you any amount on that. Okay, and this is not even the chapter. This is a preface. So the preface is all over the place. You can imagine what happens later on. Before we get started, here are two stories about my friends and mentors, Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. The stories provide some hints about what to expect in this book. Yeah, great. You're going to tell us about your mentors and then the mentors, their families and where they stay. It's great for people who are historians, but I don't think most people other than that are interested. And I know I'm interested in this subject. So I already know about Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. I don't need Richard Thaler to tell me again about Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. I have read Daniel Kahneman's book first and then come to this guy's book. Striving to please Amos. Even for those of us who can't remember where we last put our keys, life offers indelible moments. Some are public events. If you're as old as I am, one may be the day John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Into brackets, freshman in college, playing pickup basketball in the college gym. For anyone old enough to be reading this book, September 11, 2001 is another. Just getting up, listening to NPR. He hasn't explained what NPR is, trying to make sense of it. Other events are personal, from weddings to a hole-in-one. For me, one such event was a phone call from Danny Kahneman. Although we speak often and there are hundreds of calls, that have left no trace. For this one, I know precisely where I was standing. Although, it was early 1996 and Danny had called to share the news that his friend and collaborator, Amos Tversky, was ill with terminal cancer and had about 6 months to live. I was so discombobulated that I had to hand the phone to my wife while I recovered my composure. After reading discombobulated, I had to recover my composure. The news that any good friend is dying is shocking, but Amos Tversky was just not the sort of person who dies at age 59. Amos Tversky was not his friend, he was his teacher. Amos, whose papers and talks were precise and perfect, and whose desk sat only a pad and pencil lined up in parallel, did not just die. Now you can imagine how much time is being wasted on mankind.
Is this one of the reasons why you've written the Thin Mind Map book and so many other thin books?
and then some people have actually criticized that. So if you write a book like this, nobody reads it. And they'll say, oh, it's too long, it's too boring. And you write a thin book, they'll say, oh, this is so thin. So losers will find an excuse everywhere. So
okay, fine. So now I'd like to, okay, we all got the fact that this is boring stuff and you obviously take out the time and see through this boring stuff.
I'm underpaid.
So, okay, so you've gone through these books and taken these pearls from these books and you're sharing it with us. Okay, great.
But it's exhausting just thinking about it.
Okay. So I think the people out here would also not like to get exhausted listening to the boring stuff. So let's try and dive into some of the exciting stuff, which is, can these strategies which you use when you meet customers, like offline, right? Can they be used online? And I know I've got some examples from email, but can you talk about websites? Because today, how do you use these strategies on your website? Can you share some examples? And first of all, can it be done?
Yeah. To enhance the popularity of these strategies, to make sure that the maximum people benefit, each and every strategy that I'm talking about and that I mentioned in my book also, and I'll be giving the link to a free reading for my book later on in the session. Every strategy can be implemented online and offline. People will know by intuition what tweaks they need to make when they want to use the strategy online. And if there are any questions about that, we can take a few questions later on. But it would really be very wrong on my part to just talk about strategies which work in a certain, say, geography, or only online or only offline, or strategies that work only in a certain culture. That wouldn't make sense, because then you would have to utilize that only in certain situations, which does make sense. It makes sense after you've learned the strategies that can be deployed anywhere. So I might as well focus first on strategies that can be deployed anywhere, online, offline, small companies, big companies, whatever the culture of your client is, whatever geography you're in. All these strategies are research backed and they work everywhere with everybody.
Okay, so can we take, say, because I have data on scarcity, can we talk about scarcity? Can we like deep dive into that? And I'd like to show some statistics also, because it's worked for me.
Yeah. Scarcity is extremely, extremely powerful. It is so powerful that plenty of people will just not believe it. And one of the biggest gurus of the science of influence and the science of persuasion is a gentleman called Bob Cialdini. You'll get data about him from my book. I've mentioned his name in my book quite a number of times. He has spoken about the concept of scarcity and how he himself was influenced by scarcity. Now, I find all this very fascinating because I feel that I'm an alien and I can't understand human emotions and human thinking, because I don't think I've ever been fascinated by something that's scarce. that I was not interested in before it became scarce. So scarcity, there is proof and there is research to show that when something is scarce, people are very, very excited about it. They want it because it's scarce, which to some extent maybe could be predicted by some people because maybe they've felt that themselves. But to go to a different level with some people, everybody is not going to think that way, but some people, educated people, intelligent people, are so influenced by scarcity that they're interested in something that they were not interested in just because it's scarce, which is completely irrational, and it's very difficult for me to ever be comfortable with it. I can only understand it intellectually. So that's the example I want to give you from Bob Cialdini, and you can read it in his book, the Science and Practice of Influence, where he was reading in a newspaper. There is a religious sect in the US called the Mormons. They're a religious sect, and they have temples where only if you are a member of that faith can you enter those temples. Just like you have Parsi fire temples where only Parsis are allowed. One of the temples was in Arizona, and Bob Cialdini is based in Arizona. He read about that temple in a newspaper. He read that that temple was being renovated and it was going to be completed by so and so date. And after that, just because it's been renovated, if you say because everything seems to be justified, just because it is being renovated, they would allow people from the public to visit the temple, even though they may not be Mormons, for a period of 20 days. So Bob Cialdini got very excited. He said, great, I want to visit this temple. And he called a friend of his, do you want to come along? And his friend said, you were never interested in the Mormons. You were never interested in architecture. So how come you're suddenly interested in going to this temple? I definitely have no interest, but I can go along with you to give you company. And that got him thinking, yeah, why am I interested? What's going on with my brain? And that's how he did a lot of research on scarcity. And he found that something scarce just means it's important. That's a shortcut that the brain uses. And for the sake of understanding it, I've divided it into two. Scarcity were things that you were anyway concerned about, and scarcity were things that you had no concern about. So that second part just shows how powerful it is, that people who wouldn't care about something suddenly care about it just because it's scarce. It's absolutely, absolutely crazy. And it happened with me as well. So I'm gonna talk about a personal example. So this was from my social life. So I met a lady once, and I decided to meet her the second time. And second time we met, we had great fun together. We spent a lot of time together in the second meeting. So I thought things are going well. And after a few days, I called her again. When I called her, she picked up the phone. She was very nice on the phone. And I suggested the idea of meeting again. She wasn't open to that. She said, I'm busy. So I said, fine. After a few days, I called her again. She picks up the phone. She's very nice on the phone. And I suggest the idea of meeting again. She says, I'm very tired. So she kept on giving me some excuse for not meeting 2 or 3 times. I said, okay, I better lay off now. Probably she's lost interest in me. Or maybe I just go slow. Maybe don't speak to her for a few months or something. And then once I was going out for seeing a movie with a different lady friend. So I just sent a message. I'm going for a movie today with a lady friend of mine. And this time this first lady was not even in the country. She was not in the country. And she immediately wrote back, what lady friend? I thought I'm your only lady friend. I'm saying, really? suddenly I'm like a big person in her life now. And she said, who is this lady friend? I want to talk about her. Can I call you right now? Okay, she at least says all that. She messages all that on WhatsApp. when she's not even in the country. That's how affected she was. And I'm just going, just trying to understand the whole thing, just thinking that you human beings are so funny. Because she never called me. Every time I was calling her, she never showed any interest in going out with me again. She never called on her own, never. And now she's saying, I'll call you from a foreign country. Can I call to discuss? I said, look, you can call me, but we are not discussing my social life with other people on the phone. We can talk about it when we meet, but on the phone, I don't want to do it. So that made her very, very angry, and plenty of things happened after that I can't go into. But this is my personal experience. Just because I was scarce to her, she felt I didn't even tell her that I'm dumping you or our relationship is over or something like that. So because I thought we didn't have a relationship. So I just said I'm going out for a movie with this lady friend, and suddenly that scarcity hit her so much that she is now completely all alert, and I'm like the most important, more important to her than Donald Trump. It's crazy.
But wait a second, before we go off into, I don't know, I don't want the people to think that this is a relationship coaching seminar webinar going on. Can you? No, I get scarcity and it works maybe with women as well. Women will be able to use it on men also. But can we probably look at some more business related? I know men and women can be business also, but can we look at some other examples maybe?
Yeah. One of the biggest fashion brands, one of the most successful fashion brands in the world is Burberry, Burberry. It's been present in India for quite a number of years. I think it mostly sells perfumes in India, but it probably sells a lot of other stuff too. It recently burnt $28 billion. $28 billion worth of merchandise. It's a dead giveaway, but why do you think they did that? I mean, it's a sitter. It's good to have quizzes. It leads to better learning. It's not just a show-off thing. It's also entertaining.
You want to ask this question to the audience? I'll open up the chat.
Let's just take the first two questions. Answers that come up.
Okay.
Why would Burberry burn $28 billion of its own merchandise? It's a luxury brand.
Okay, luxury brand burned $2.8 billion.
$28 billion.
$28 billion.
The biggest IPO in the world is going to be $35 billion and grew.
Okay.
The biggest IPO in the world, and they burned $28 billion.
Okay. Any reason? Any guys have any ideas why they did that? That means I would like you guys to. Is it during COVID times?
No, it's not.
It was not during COVID times.
It's done regularly. So I'm giving a hint. It's done regularly, and it's done regularly not just by Burberry. Imagine the pollution. Imagine the environmental impact. But it's done regularly by the top luxury brands like Burberry.
Okay, so there's a response. Is one more person has said it is for attention. No. Okay.
No, it's the wrong type of attention. No, you definitely don't want to give any publicity to things that can be perceived negatively. This is I'm sure this is not a press release from them. I'm sure this is, and you can find it on Google. This is reported by a reputed, respectable media, if there is such a thing today.
So both people are saying the same thing to get attention, but there's some more answers coming.
They won't want attention.
They don't want to sell it in sale as cheap is one possible answer. They don't want to sell it as a sale, as a cheap product.
He's very close to the right answer.
Oh, yeah. You're very close. Who's that? Nilesh. Nilesh, you're close. Have you attended his workshop before? Manoj is saying they should not land up in the grey market.
He's Googled it. He's Googled it.
He's good. Manoj, you are powerful at using Google. Great.
Yeah. I find it very coincidental that he's used the exact words, because that is the
Jyoti saying getting the freshest stock to their consumers. Vaibhav saying perception for caring its products and brands. I don't know what that meant. Products got expired is another one. And Nilesh says no. Nilesh said no as in no to, don't want to sell it sale as cheap. Uh, Narayan says its shelf life is over. Umesh is saying to keep the inventory under control and thus creating scarcity.
Yeah.
Yes.
So various reasons all relating to scarcity.
Right.
One is something goes out of fashion or it gets defective. So what do? If it's a non-premium brand, there are plenty of brands which have sales. Like FabMart has an annual sale, Zodiac has an annual sale, Arvind Mills has an annual sales, and they're a big draw. But those are not super luxury brands. This is a super luxury brand. So if they have an annual sale to clear inventory which doesn't sell, it reduces the value of the brand because people who are not rich will buy that brand and they'll show off on Facebook. See, I've got Burberry. And the people who actually buy Burberry will say, oh, this guy also buys Burberry. I'm not buying Burberry from tomorrow. I'm not in this guy's category. So they burnt. Imagine the loss. Imagine the loss of money. Imagine the loss of reputation. Some people will not buy the brand just because they know that they burn clothes that don't sell because there are certain very rich guys within their target market who also want to do conscious consuming. So it's a big risk, but they're doing it. And that's how deeply the concept of scarcity has been understood by the best brands in the world. You just can't afford to let too many people have a premium brand. So that is one thing. And before we go to a few more specific examples and the Q&A, one of the reasons why this happens is because of a concept called loss aversion. So human beings are more motivated to avoid losses than to get profits. And this is in one of the books, either by Richard Thaler or by Daniel Kahneman, that when they have gone to certain experimental subjects with a coin, and say, if I toss the coin, it comes out heads, you get $100. And if it comes out tails, you lose $100. Would you accept this bet? People have said no. And they kept on raising the amount of money that person would get if it comes out tails. So if it comes out heads, they would get $100. If it comes out tails, they would get $150. Would you accept the bet? They say no. Okay. What about 100 versus 200? What about 100 versus 250? So 250 seems to be a golden ratio. So people are willing to take a loss of, let's say, 1 lakh rupees if they think there's a possibility of them getting 2.5 lakh rupees. So that's how risk averse people are. And when you say scarcity, they feel that they're going to lose something if they don't look at that offer and evaluate it carefully or go in for that offer. And you can use it in so many ways. There are so many ways in which you can make your product scarce. There are certain products which are by definition scarce. I've done more than, say, 30 seminars on invisible selling for real estate companies. And for the life of me, I don't understand how they don't see such obvious ways of selling their products. It's so easy to make something scarce in a building. Right? A person comes in to buy, a prospective buyer comes in to look at your building. Right? Now, if he likes the ground floor, there's only one ground floor. In that ground floor, there are only 3 or 4 flats. Now, within the 3 or 4 flats, you can say this one is the best because this one is the quietest. You immediately create scarcity. Or he likes the top floor, tell him, okay, this is the top floor, and among the 4 flats which on the top floor, this one gives you the best view. So you've immediately created scarcity. If a person is staying with his aged parents and he wants the ground floor, then again, you find out something with the client and you can make a product scarce to him with his context. Maybe he's got kids and he would like to take his kids out to the kiddie garden, to the garden every day for 1 or 2 hours. In that case, maybe, just maybe he would prefer the ground floor. So if there's something fitness conscious, then maybe he would like to go to the building or to the place in the building which is nearest to the gym. So it's a no-brainer. If you're selling something like that, which inherently offers so many opportunities for you to make a product scarce, it's crazy how they're not using it enough. It's really, really terrible. It's a big waste. And ultimately, everything can be made scarce. So if you're doing a session, if you're doing a training session, then you can have scarcity in terms of pricing, but you got to be very careful there. That's a different strategy by itself. Normally, I do not encourage the discount strategy is a separate seminar by itself. Be very careful before offering a discount. So don't do that.
On the seminar front, I'd like to share some stats if I may. Is this a good time to share that data?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to share my screen. I applied scarcity with my seminar, and it was, I don't even think it was that much of like seminar. It was not like scarcity in that sense. It just had a subtle scarcity thing to it. So this is a workshop.
If it's not loud, it doesn't have to be loud. In fact, louder sales pitches, the more people get put off. They become defensive. They have the guards up if you're doing hard sell.
Correct. Now, for example, these are the stats who attended my Google Ads workshop. Okay. Now, when I first shot the email, this is an email campaign, online email campaign, saying that, look, on such and such date, I'm going to be doing my campaign. I'm going to be doing my Google Ads workshop with Anup Prasad and so on and so forth. So I was selling it to my existing database of people. And I had, as you can see, actually these had come in a little earlier. These three are not, these were one-on-one people who were talking to me, asking me for Google Ads. And I said, look, I'm doing a workshop. So they kind of paid early. But I actually started the email campaign on the 2nd. And you can see 2nd May, I got about 4 registrations, right? And then 4th, I got 1 more registration. 7th, I got 1. And 9th, I got another 1. So really, if you look at the email campaign results from my first email was about this Google Ads for Business workshop. And I got these registrations that came in. Now, what happened is 2 days prior to the workshop, I just wanted to give a reminder for those people who might have wanted to register but have not registered. So I sent them a second mail, which was the exact same email. It was the exact same email. The only difference between this email, the ones that these people registered, and the ones that you can see below in red registered, is 2 words in the subject line, and which was last reminder. That's it. That's all I did. I put last reminder, and then I got all these registrations. You can see a huge number came in on the 10th and again on the 11th. And one guy even came on the day of the workshop. On the 12th itself, this guy paid and he came. So this is some data that I got. I said, wow, just by adding last reminder, I got so many more registrations. I mean, they got it the first time, right? They might be thinking about it, but just by adding 2 days prior to the seminar, the training program, the workshop, I got many more registrations than the original blast itself. This is, of course, for the Google Ads. And then I did another workshop right after, and I had very similar experience. So over here, you can see this was the campaign that got results from the first mailer. And then again, as you can see, if I scroll down here, I got a whole bunch, right? From 17th when the second mail, look at that. This outperformed all previous registrations, right? Just by adding the word last reminder. And then again on the 18th and 19th, people kept registering so that they could enter the workshop. So this is some data that worked for me on email, right? And what I'd really like is for you to share something on websites, because you said you could even share some strategies on how to use it on websites. So tell us how you've used this various invisible selling strategy that you talk about on websites.
Yeah, so even this could be used on a website. Your website could talk about your trainings and mention this. As you mentioned in the email, you could mention it on your website. It's whether one is doing offline or online or in an email or in a website, it can be used. It just grabs people's attention and they take you more seriously. So you've used last reminder. You could also say this is the last time in this year you're going to do this session. And that's a big thing that you can use because we're already in October. We only have 2 months for this year to go. So you can say last SEO workshop in 2020. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do it anymore in 2021, but just the instinctive response to that is, oh my gosh, this is scarce. And people, there is another concept of invisible selling, another way in which the mind works. It's called hyperbolic discounting. When people think of the future, they think the future is very far away. That's why people don't save for the future. It says future है ना, देख लेंगे, बाद में देखेंगे. Diet है ना, health है ना. Right now there's a juicy cheeseburger in front of me right now. In the future, we'll go to the gym every day and we will eat only Karela juice or whatever. So that's the way people think. So if they think this is the last one for this year, they don't do a rational calculation and say, oh, next year is just 2 months away. No, they don't think that way. They think next year, it's like, oh my gosh, very, very far away. So you can use that. You can then in 2021 up to March, you can say up to this financial year, up to financial year, last one in financial year 2020, 2021. You can say limited number of seats. So there are so many ways in which you can create scarcity, but there has to be no line. So there is a cost. Every strategy comes with a cost. If people feel that you're lying, if you say I'm offering a discount, again, you shouldn't offer discounts. That's a different strategy by itself. But let's say somebody does offer a discount and he says, I'll offer you a 25% discount if you pay by tomorrow by 6 p.m. And somebody goes to him at 7 p.m. and he says, I want that offer that you were giving before 6 p.m. and I'm ready to transfer the money right now. Some people just get very tempted. They can't say no to money because again, it's loss aversion now. Now they're the hunted. The hunter becomes the hunted. So this guy is using loss aversion on you now. If you fail, if your greed gets the better of you at that time, you don't have discipline over yourself. If you don't really believe in these strategies, then don't implement these strategies because it's like taking a steroid. If you believe in the steroid, you take a steroid, after that you better work out. Otherwise the steroid will destroy your body. If you're going to do this and after that he comes at 7 o'clock and anyway you're going to give him, then where's the scarcity? Then he'll know that this guy is full of shit. Next time you do something of that sort, he will not believe you. In fact, he will go and tell everybody that this guy, I broke him. No, I'm a VIP. I can do what I want. I get my price. I don't care what he says, what his rack rate is. So you've got to sacrifice. That sacrifice has to be done. So I don't offer discounts. I mentioned in my, no matter how wrong, some people may get pissed off by it, but I mentioned there are no discounts. Don't even waste my time asking for a discount. And that gets people who are not my prospects. I consider people who want a discount for my services as not my prospects. So I don't want to waste time with my prospects. Why should I take a call and then say, discount is not available? Why should I even entertain an email that says, can you give me a discount? I have to say, no, it's a waste of my time. So it's better to be very, very clear. If you are not clear in what your policies are, people who even want to buy from you will stop buying from you.
So can I, at this point, take some questions because I can see that about 7 questions have come in.
Yeah, so let's take 3 questions and then we have time for the last strategy.
Okay. The first one's a very small question. What was the name of the book?
Oh, you'll be able to see it in the video because that's why I showed you a closer. It's called Misbehaving.
Misbehaving. Okay, got it.
Because we expect human beings to behave in a certain way, but they misbehave.
Okay.
So that's why it's called Misbehaving.
Okay. I'm going to skip the next question because the gentleman saying it's everything that what we're talking about is going over his head. So
So then imagine what will happen when he reads this book.
Okay, I'm not gonna take that as a question. Okay, this is all questions from responding. Instead of on the chat, they've typed it in there. They should not go to the gray market. Okay, I'm just gonna close all these shelf lives. Okay, done. Okay, so these are not questions that are actually coming here. These are people who responded at the time of the chat. So,
Okay.
Manoj is asking, they are not mad. This what people think, but I'm sure they have some underlying benefit which they did not disclose. Okay, so Manoj, I didn't see a question in here. We're open to answer questions. If you have a question, feel free to answer. So feel free to ask them in the Q&A. And if we are not able to understand your questions, we'll open up the mic. But as Dharmendra said, we will be able to take only 2 questions. So if anybody has questions, take a minute to post them on the Q&A. And if not, then we will close the program. So while people are typing in their questions for you, we will take about 2 questions from the audience. Okay, there's one Q&A that's come. Let's take a look at this. Jyoti is asking a question here. So scarcity should be time bound. What other aspects need to be considered?
No, time is just one aspect. No? We spoke about limited number of seats.
Okay, yes.
A final reminder.
Final reminder, right.
And as I give the example of the real estate business, one is you can create the strategy factor on your own for all your clients. And the second is you can, if your client is big, then you can do some research and see what's his deadline.
I see. Okay.
Sometimes the guy tells you he's got to finish this purchase by this and this date. I don't know why he tells you that, but they tell you. They can tell you that by this and this date, I have to finish this purchase, which is, it's amazing. Now you know, okay, if he's come to me, how many other people is he going to go to? He doesn't have too much time. So based on that, you can decide how much leverage, how much negotiation you really want to do, or whether you want to do any negotiation.
And if a guy doesn't ask the question, can we ask the question? Okay, sir, just quickly checking. I want to know how urgent is this? Is that a good question to ask?
It is, but then you got to filter the answer as well. He may not give you the right answer. And some, sorry.
So basically, as they say, customer हमेशा घोड़े पे आते. They are always in a rush. So if you ask the question, they may say, "I need it yesterday." So then can we not twist that around and say, "Oh, is that okay? Then I'm afraid I won't be able to service you. If you're willing to wait for a week, I can give it at this price. Otherwise, our regular pricing is so much, and we take a month to do it." Is that something that we can try? So he says my requirement is as of yesterday. Like any customer, I need this yesterday. So we can probably go and say something to the effect like, I'm afraid I cannot do this for you if it is that urgent because I already have a lot of work lined up. And if you need it done in a week's time, we can do it at this price. But if you're willing to wait a month, then we can give it to you that price. So now they know that the deliverable for 1 week is, twice as much because they're the ones that said, "Apan ko jaldi hai."
Why would you even offer him the second option? You're pretty sure he's going to close out the deal. So then
you're pretty
give him the other price. Why do you want to yourself suggest to him that he will be having an incentive to not do it at that time? He's already decided to do it at that time. So why change his mind?
So normally, let's say if it take a month to get it done, he is putting the pressure on me to get it done now. So wouldn't that help?
No, that's a different thing. He is willing to buy it just now. If it's going to take 1 month and he expects it to get done in 1 week, then it's even more urgent, right? That means he'll be in a big hurry to start.
So just don't mention the other option. Just say, okay, we can get it done for you in a week, but this is the price, but you'll have to close this out by tomorrow, in 24 hours.
If you can get it done within a week, if you can get it done only within a month, then he'll be even more eager to sign up, no? Because he wants something delivered in a week, and that's impossible. Why offer him another option at a low price? That doesn't make any sense.
Got it. Okay, another question has come up. This is from Upendra. How can I use scarcity strategy on website and landing page, especially for health insurance?
So many. No, before that, I was going to say something. There are so many regulatory changes. Now, I was doing a session for a real estate company where the stamp duty was expected to go up after 2 months. And there was something like 20 to 30 different real estate companies in the room. And they were big guys, like Godrej, Hinandani, Kalpatru, the who's who of the real estate industry. And I took top guys and decision makers, heads of sales and marketing. And I said, which of you has put out an ad or put out a communication saying that stamp duty is going to increase? So if you're thinking of buy it before the stamp duty increases. Not a single one of them had done it. And I said, why? They said, no, the chota increase hai na. Chota for you, no? You're looking from your point of view. Everybody thinks the way they think.
Right.
But it may be a small amount for you.
Right.
Somebody else, even if he's saving 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees, if he's going to buy it anyway, then he might as well buy it now. No?
Wow. Very interesting.
So there are so many such opportunities presented by the calendar itself. So the health insurance thing, again, what are the key dates? Are the premiums going up? Is the scheme going to be discontinued? Find out something without lying. I mean, the stamp duty was really going to go up. You could send him a cutout of the government circular.
Correct.
You're not cheating anybody. You're not calling anybody. Are premiums going to go up? There are certain regulatory bodies. IRDA is a regulatory body for insurance, but there are some people who are generally trustworthy. For example, when Warren Buffett speaks, people listen because Warren Buffett is not interested in giving fake views. Nobody can pay Warren Buffett to get him to say something. He's speaking what he genuinely feels, and he's done that. He's 90 years old. He's done that right since the beginning. So somebody else, if he is in an interview, he's an observer of the insurance industry, and in an interview he says, I think premiums are going to go up. Then you can share details of that interview and say, look, there's no guarantee it's going to go up, but this guy is a respected person in this industry and he feels premiums are going to go up. There are so many ways. You got to be creative and you got to be honest. There's no need to be dishonest. There are so many things which are really going on. Maybe taxation will change. We don't know. So many things.
I think there's some interesting questions come on. Can we take?
So let's take one last question on scarcity, and after that they can send me a message on my website. They can just Google Dharmendra Rai. They'll be able to send me a message on the website.
Okay, so first of all, Upendra's question that came first, which was how can I use scarcity strategy on web page and landing page, especially for health insurance? Do you have any response to that? If not, we can go to the next one.
That was the response to that.
Achha, that was the response for that one. Okay.
Yeah. So regulatory changes, views on regulatory changes, premium hikes. I'm sure premiums must be hiked every year. So
correct. So he can use that. Okay. So there's just one more question I want to take. In fact, there are two questions here. I'm just going to look at this and just pick the one that's more powerful. Right, all products. What about where and when there are floods of products? Yeah, so actually both these questions from both the Manojs are similar.
Okay.
For example, they are both saying, I'll read both the questions so you can imagine the similarity of their question. Okay, so one Manoj is saying is that does it apply to all products? What about where and when there are floods of products and service providers? How, like, for example, if there are many insurance agents, if there are many mutual fund people, and so here again, another guy, Manoj, said,
you've seen how unimaginative they are. No? I told you, all these real estate guys, not a single one of them had used it. And anybody can tell me, anybody who's on this webinar can tell me whether he received even one communication from any real estate company saying that buy today because the stamp duty is going up after 2 months. If any of you got it, please share it on the screen. Okay. I challenge you.
So now the other Manoj is saying, does the strategy apply in unorganized sector where in the buyer's market with abundant supply? Now, what does unorganized sector mean according to you? Because I don't know what that means.
All the commodity stuff. So first of all, if it's a commodity, then you should make it a brand.
So Samsung, he's supposing he's selling Samsung phones. That's a commodity, right?
No, you can always add a service element to it.
Ah,
My Samsung buyer,
so
he does the data transfer for free. And he gives me buyback and gives me lots of useless gifts, which I don't take.
But you still go to him.
Gives me a big bag and something. I said, "Kya tu apne paas hi rakh bag hai." How many bags to keep? How many bags and pens and flasks and cups people give you?
Right, right.
Use of imagination. These people are so they just see somebody else giving bags, so how many bags or cups. Use some imagination. Give Amazon on your cashback. You must be getting some Amazon vouchers. I'm sure everybody wants Amazon vouchers. So there's some cheap way in which you can get Amazon vouchers and pass it on as an incentive. Something of that sort. Something which people should feel is valuable.
Yeah. And I'd like to just mention to Manoj Deori, for your thing, I think if you see I have done a talk with Dharmendra last month as well. And I think if you watch that video, you will get a lot of more information so that you can understand the concept of unique and useful both together. So that he has talked about in depth for more than an hour. So please get in touch with me and I will share that video with you so that you can watch that and you will get ideas on how you can probably take care of the problem, even though you are dealing in products or services that have abundant supply. All right. So that I'm going to put as answer both of those questions. So that's it. I think we've got that answered all the questions. Great. So I think that's it. We're also close to 6 o'clock. So I think we can wrap it up. Dharmendra, any last notes before we wind up our seminar today?
Yeah. I have spoken about 5 strategies in my book, the Invisible Selling book. So everybody can access the book by just doing Dharmendra Rai Google. And you will be able to read the entire book for free on Kindle Unlimited. That's genuinely free. It's you can subscribe to Kindle Unlimited for a month, totally for free. In a month, you can read all the books. And the Invisible Selling book is about 50 pages. So that's one thing. There are also probably more than 100 videos on YouTube. So you just go on YouTube and you search for Dharmendra Rai Invisible Selling. You'll get lots of videos. And anytime you want to ask a query, just go on Google and say Dharmendra Rai. You'll get the website and you'll be able to send a message on the website. So you don't need to remember anything complicated like HTTP address or an email address.
Great. Awesome. Dharmendra, this is great. I hope to do more seminars with you maybe next month or the month after. Or as you said, this is the last one this year. So for November, we should do one last one this year.
No commitments.
Sorry, no comments.
No announcements at this stage.
No announcements at this stage.
When they subscribe to all our services, then they'll know automatically.
Right. Thank you.
To emails and YouTube channels and everything.
Thanks a lot so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.